Hello teachers, we have midbook tests coming up soon. This is a big day for us. So I want to make this video here so that you have some important information about what the test will look like, how you can help your students prepare, and what to do after the test. So let's start with vital information. The date of the test will be in the Facebook chat below. That's the date of the test. The time of the test will be your normal time of classes. If your student comes at 5 p.m. to their classes, they will come at 5 p.m. for the test. The test will take place not in your classroom. Nope, we're going to go to a special part of the campus. I'm here at Loma Libre, and I'm in the games room. Let's take a look. Here in the games room, Salón de Juegos, we have many tables set up. At each table, there will be students. Ideally, we mix them up, red, green, orange, blue, so that they don't sit next to each other. They have 50 minutes to take the test, and there are 50 questions on the test. That's 1 minute per question. When they finish taking the test, they will turn in the tests to one of our teachers here, who will grade the tests. You will not grade your own tests. You will grade another teacher's tests, and they will grade yours. This helps us keep our integrity in the testing process. And then you need to have your listas de asistencia. Teachers, it's really important that we know which students came and took the test. You want to take attendance that day. Well, now it is after the test. Imagine that your students have finished, they've all gone home, and you have a big stack of tests and answers. What do? Take your answer sheets with their grades on them and put this on your attendance list, en tu lista de asistencia. It's important to record your test grades. Next class, set aside 10 minutes to review your tests. This is where students can look at their test and ask any questions so that they understand everything. And then, important, collect every test and every answer sheet. No students can take these home. Why? Because with one picture, going to one Facebook group or WhatsApp group, all of a sudden our tests are no longer valid. We don't want any cheating to happen. So please collect your tests afterward. Okay, how do you lead your students in reviewing? How do you help them get ready? I want to talk about two things. First, what does your student need to do? And second, what do you need to do? Let's talk about your students. Learning is their responsibility, and we want to help them be responsible for their learning. So help them with important information. Let them know what chapters their test will cover. Then, I advise you to give them a schedule so that they can systematically study for their test. Here's an example with a red book. You'll notice days of the week. And if I were this teacher, I would have them study these chapters on these days. And if they practice a little bit each night, they'll be ready. I like to emphasize that studying is not about panicking the night before. It's not about spending an all-nighter. It's a little bit of work consistently every day before the test. And we want to help them start about a week in advance, or maybe even 2. Maybe just a week in advance. Okay. Now, when they're at home, how do they study? Well, they should have notes for your class that they can review, but I suggest that they, in addition to looking at those notes, they use their workbook. So they have a workbook page, and it should be all filled out. Now, some students just read the information, but teachers teach them to actively remember and use the information. So teach them to cover up the answers. They cover it up and remember what it is. Then check themselves. They can even give their books to their mom or dad or brother or sister and have them quiz them. This way, they're engaging their memory and not just reading it. Teachers, sometimes our job is not just to teach the material, but teach them how to learn. And this is a good opportunity for them to learn how to learn. So we've talked about what the student needs to do to prepare themselves. Now let's talk about what you need to do, teacher. Teacher, it's important that you carefully plan your review days. I suggest that you set aside 2 days to review, 2 class periods. And in that class period, cover a certain amount of chapters. I'm teaching Green Book, and I cover chapters 1 through 5. So in one review session, I'll cover chapters 1 and part of 3, 1, 2, part of 3. And then in another day, part of 3, 4, and 5. Be systematic and choose what activities you will do. It's not about telling them and telling them and telling them the rules. It's about having them remember the rules, have them tell you the rules, and then having them use them. Most of the period should be them using and using the language. One of your most helpful resources is your teacher's guide. Here you can see the expansion activities from one of the teacher's guide. These are great. Choose 2, 3, 4 of them in your review session. And of course, you can choose from different chapters to highlight the most important material from that chapter. I also like to use the end of the chapter activities. These are really good because they usually have most of the information from that chapter. If you want more activities, I am including a document in this Facebook chat with some really, really good ones. They're fun, they're easy to set up, and I think they make the most of your time in class. Think of these mid-book tests like a diagnostic. They let you know how your student is doing. Your students can use this information to know if they need to work harder or know if they're doing great. They're also helpful because soon you will have parent-teacher meetings. And when the parent says, "How is Johnny doing?" you can say, "Well, Johnny," and explain the case. Okay? These are very helpful for both the parents, the students, and you.